She didn't believe in love stories. He was afraid to stay. But one line at a bakery changed everything. This isn't a story about grand confessions. It's a story about morning coffee, silence without fear, and a cat who knows where home is. Sofia tells a story of love that arrives quietly. Of a man learning not to run. Of choosing each other, every day. Warm, everyday romance. Soft drama. A love that doesn't promise forever, but gives you today.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
The silence where we stayed. I never believed in love stories. The kind with sparks at first sight, where time freezes and the heart just knows. My life was simpler than that. Work, home, grocery lists in my phone, evening exhaustion, and morning coffee I always drank too fast. I met Richard, in a line. A completely ordinary, boring line at a small bakery near my apartment. I was staring at the display of croissants, thinking only about how late I was again, when someone quietly said behind me, "You always get the chocolate one, but today it's especially good." I turned around. He was smiling a little awkwardly, like he wasn't sure he had the right to talk to me. Dark coat, slightly tired eyes, hands in his pockets. Nothing cinematic. Just a man. Just a look. "Are you keeping track of my breakfasts?" I smiled. "No," he laughed. I'm here often. And so are you. That's how our often began. We didn't exchange numbers that day. We just nodded to each other as we walked outside. But the next morning, he was there again. And the day after that. And the day after that. We started talking about small things. About the weather that always ruins plans. About coffee that never tastes the same at home. About how loneliness isn't always the absence of people, but the absence of one specific person. His name was Richard. He worked with words. I worked with numbers. He knew how to listen. I knew how to stay quiet. We were different, but somehow compatible. Like two cups from the same set, just different colors. Our dates were ordinary. Walks after work, grocery shopping together. He always carried the heavy bags, even when I told him not to. We cooked pasta, and he always added too much pepper. I complained, and he kissed my temple and said, "It tastes better this way." Like life, a little spicier. But there was something else, too. Silence. Moments when I felt him close off. When his gaze drifted somewhere far away. I didn't ask. I was afraid. I've always had this fear. If I ask, I'll break something. One evening we argued. Over something stupid. Dirty dishes, I think. I said something sharp. He quietly grabbed his jacket. "You always leave," I blurted out. He stopped at the door. "I'm afraid to stay and lose everything," he said softly. "Because I've already lost before." I cried that night. Not beautifully. Not dramatically. Just sitting on the kitchen floor, surrounded by the smell of cold pasta and coffee. That was the first time I understood. Love isn't only warmth. It's fear, too. And choice. He came back in the morning. Brought my favorite croissant. Sat down next to me on the floor. "I don't want to leave, Sophie," he said. "But I need to learn how not to run." I took his hand. It was trembling. From that day on, we started learning to talk, even when it was uncomfortable. To be silent together without hiding. To make breakfasts, be lazy on Sundays, argue about movies, and make peace halfway through. Our love wasn't loud. It lived in the way he covered me with a blanket when I fell asleep on the couch. In the notes I left for him on the fridge. In how we held hands in the elevator, like the world outside was too noisy. Sometimes I think how lucky I was to choose that croissant that day. Because love, it turns out, doesn't always arrive like a storm. Sometimes it comes quietly, becomes a habit, becomes home, and one day you realize you can no longer imagine a morning without this person beside you. A few months after Richard finally stopped running, a different kind of silence settled into our home. Not empty, gentle. The kind where you hear the kettle boil, the floor creak in the morning, the quiet breathing of someone beside you. And that's when he appeared. A small gray kitten with a white patch on his chest, like someone had accidentally left a spot of light there. We found him late at night near our building. He was curled up, looking at us with big, serious eyes. No fear, just hope. "He looks like you," Richard said. "Like me? Careful, quiet." We named him Lumen, for the little light he seemed to carry inside. Lumen slept between us, chose Richard as his morning sun and me as his evening shelter. He purred when we argued and always, somehow, lay right between us, like a reminder. "You're safe here." Our mornings changed. I woke up to a tiny paw touching my nose. Richard made coffee half asleep, wearing an old t-shirt, and I watched him, realizing this is what happiness looks like, a little messy, completely real. We learned to live slowly, to stop rushing, to not fear silence, to not run from tenderness. One evening we sat on the floor, our backs against the couch. Lumen slept on my lap. Rain tapped softly against the window. "Sophie," Richard said quietly. "You know this is home now, right?" I nodded. Because home isn't walls. It's hands that find you in the dark. It's a cat waiting by the door. It's love that doesn't demand, it stays. I rested my head on his shoulder. And I thought, if happiness has a sound, it's purring, breathing, and peace between words. A year has passed. I often think about how strangely time works. There were days when it stretched like cold coffee, slow and tasteless. And now a whole year slipped by almost unnoticed, like a page turned by warm fingers. Our home wakes up before we do. First, Lumen. He's big now, heavy, confident. He sits on the windowsill and looks at the morning like he knows more than we do. Then the kettle. Then Richard's footsteps in the kitchen. And only then, me. We didn't become different people. We just became calmer. I learned not to expect disaster where there is silence. He learned not to run when fear shows up. Our love didn't become perfect. We still argue over small things. Sometimes we stay quiet longer than we should. Sometimes we get tired of each other. But now I know, these aren't cracks. This is life. I watched Richard reading, glasses slipping down his nose, and I realized that love isn't a moment. It's a choice you make again and again. Quietly, without promises to the whole world. Just every morning. One evening, a few weeks ago, we were sitting on the balcony. Lumen was asleep on my lap. The city breathed below us. Richard suddenly took my hand. "You know," he said, "I used to be afraid of the word forever. And now? And now I'm not afraid of today." That was enough. We're not chasing the future. It's walking beside us on its own. Maybe one day there will be a wedding. Maybe another home. Maybe more cats. Maybe harder times. But today is morning, coffee, warm hands, and the feeling of being chosen. Not by accident. Not out of fear of being alone. But out of love. If someone had told me a year ago that happiness would look like this, I wouldn't have believed it. Too simple, too quiet, but now I know. The deepest things always arrive without noise.